Everyone, and good morning to people who are listening to me from at Mumbai. What I have done is the kind of multitasking. Here I have an audience of about 120 here in this auditorium. We are celebrating Science Day. You know, C.V. Raman's the breakthrough in science, which awarded him the Nobel Prize. That day is celebrated as a Science Day. This is mainly to bring awareness among the youngsters so that they can also take up the career on the similar lines. Now today I am going to talk about wastewater. In fact, you all know that water is going to be a decisive factor. These slides are visible actually. Okay, thank you. So, you know, the water is going to be a decisive factor in our day-to-day life. You know, with the warming of the earth, changes in climate, if we do not care for the maintaining the integrity of the water, the human race is going to pay the heavy price. In fact, there's a famous saying that next Nobel Prize is for the people, for the person or a group of scientists who are going to solve the problem of water. You know, making sure that water is available to every citizen on the earth, at the same time the quality water. So that is the challenge, and let us try to understand how we can address some of the problem and what we have done in Bangalore. And when we talk about water, you know, all of us use water. We use water for manufacturing the products in industry. We use water at home, and after we use, we also discharge the wastewater. Now this wastewater, if we do not treat it and if we dispose it to the environment, then certainly it will create the problem which will have the serious health issues on the humans as well as on the ecosystem, especially the land, water and the environment. Now today's presentation I am going to present about the wastewater from industry and also the domestic sector, and when you discharge it to the lake or the land, what is the kind of the price we have to pay. Through a case study in Bangalore, I am going to illustrate that, and if time permits, then what we have done in Bangalore and other parts of the country, I am going to share that. Probably about 40 to 45 minutes I will take for this presentation, and we will have the discussion, and it could be the interactive session also. So now coming to the presentation of today. Is the slides are visible? Okay. So okay, let us now try to understand what is wastewater. And as I said earlier, we all discharge the water after we use it, okay? Now, how to discharge that? For that, if you know what are the constituents in that wastewater, probably you should be able to manage it also. Now, coming to the wastewater, when we generate at home and give it to the municipality, we term it as sewage. Similarly, the effluents are generated in industry, which also, if it is not treated and let it into the municipality, it will create the health issues, etc. Now let us understand what is a sewage. It is a liquid waste from toilet, the baths and showers and kitchens that is disposed via sewers. Okay, so that means it goes to our underground, the sewer pipe, then finally to the treatment plant. But if people are not the vigilant, then that water also gets into the water bodies. You know, that's what is happening in our country. And if you travel across the country, most of the cities' waste are being discharged into the lakes or to the rivers. Similarly, the industries, the wastewater that is generated in the industry, as per the environmental norm, we are supposed to make sure that there is no discharge from the industry, but still we are allowing the industry to discharge the wastewater indiscriminately, and we are paying the price for that. Now, when we look at the wastewater constituents, it has got the organic contaminants, inorganic contaminants, pathogens, and other contaminants. Okay. Now, let us look at what are the organic contaminants that are there in the wastewater. See, these are when we take food, if you look at the kind of food what we take protein, sugar, etc. Naturally that gets discharged into the water. So that means the wastewater will have N, nitrogen, the phosphorus, etc. And also the carbon get into the system because we eat a lot of carbohydrates, etc. So inorganic contaminants or the non-biodegradable, it includes nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen. So when you wash the detergent with the detergent, naturally the phosphorus get into the wastewater, and sometimes it also includes the heavy metal. But invariably the wastewater generated in the industry, depending on the industrial activities, you have the heavy metal into in the wastewater. So now when you look at the kind of the suspended solid, the major portion, if you look at we have the colloids, and also we have the chemical ions and also the nutrients in the system. So now when we discharge it, one of the things people would have seen is the fall in the dissolved oxygen level. You know, the students, when they take up the water quality assessment, invariably they measure the dissolved oxygen. See, that dissolved oxygen starts falling in the water body. That is mainly because, you know, the biological activity shoots up with the organic material available in the system. Naturally, the DO starts the falling. So that is an indicator that water quality is also altering in the system. So now, the other thing is the health impact. Okay, then sludge and scum accumulation. See, where I have interacted many the citizens in Bangalore. You know, hardly I have seen people are aware of the health impact because of the discharge of the wastewater. They would be staying in the apartment. Next to the apartment, the water bodies are there, and there the sewage is being discharged without treatment. You know, when this sewage gets into the water body, naturally, if it exceeds the threshold or the treating capability of the water body, it becomes a contaminant. You know, when N gets into the water body, and then the surface water will have the N in the thing, when it moves towards the groundwater, it gets oxidized and you have the nitrate in the groundwater, which you use it at home. Nitrate is a carcinogen. That means it introduces cancer in the system. So now let us look at how we can the oxygen utilization by the aerobic microbes. You will see that organic waste is discharged into the receiving stream. Then you have the aerobic microorganisms use up the oxygen. That's how the oxygen starts falling. Then biological activity depletes the oxygen level in the system. Then aquatic organism requiring oxygen to survive will die. That's where you see sometime in the summer the fish death happening in the system. In the absence of oxygen, anaerobic microorganisms start the multiplying or increase in the thing. The process of anaerobic organism, you know, the degradation starts happening. That is where you start seeing the hydrogen sulfide getting emanated from the system. That is where you have pungent odor, etc. So now, if you look at if you study the aquatic ecosystem, you can also see how the N cycle happens. You know, the algae takes up the end, then when algae dies, the end gets back into the system. So there is a process of nitrification and denitrification happening in the system. So now, when we talk about wastewater treatment, there are various levels of wastewater treatment. The first is a preliminary treatment, then the primary treatment, then the secondary treatment, tertiary treatment. Now, you all know that wastewater that you generate at home has large particles. Even the industrial wastewater, you have the large particle which gets removed in the primary treatment. The secondary treatment removes the chemical ions, while the tertiary treatment removes the nutrients. So then, of course, if you are using this water for the home, then you need to disinfect. And also the sludge that get accumulated in the treatment plant, you need to treat that. That is where the solid treatment also comes to the picture. Now, the preliminary treatment involves screening, grit removal, and the pre-aeration, and these are some of the steps we do for the preliminary treatment of the wastewater. So now let us look at the primary treatment. As I said earlier, the purpose of primary treatment is to remove the large particles. You know, it could be mechanical treatment to reduce the coarse solids, sand and dirt, oils and grease. So these are the simple technology which we use. You have the grit chamber to remove the large particles, etc. Then the primary treatment, you have the sedimentation and the other processes involved, wherein you have the clarifiers, and I will not get into the details of this. I am just trying to give the overview of this one. When I take up the case study, it becomes clearer to you the kind of treatment one should have in the city. Okay, now let's move to the secondary treatment. It could be the biological treatment and the sedimentation. That is where you have the various technologies that have been deployed, like sequential batch reactors, activated sludge, then membrane reactors, etc. So now these are some of the biological treatment process that is where is used. This is the conventional textbook also talk about the various method that is involved in removing the kind of the chemical ion that is there in the system. So now the suspended growth process or the activated sludge process also helps in the treating the water to the secondary level. Now the purpose of secondary treatment is designed to upgrade the biological content or to degrade the biological content of sewage. So when I say the biological content, of course what we discharge at home is also this one, which the food waste. Then through the aerobic biological process, that means we are facilitating the oxidation. In the process you have the nitrite and nitrate are generated in the system. So, and to some extent it gets converted into N and gets escaped to the atmosphere also. So then we have tertiary treatment, wherein the removal of phosphorus and to some extent N, all this happens in the tertiary treatment. Okay. Now as you all know, the water bodies in India and across the globe, there are frothing phenomena. When you look at the frothing happening in the water body, it indicates that phosphorus is getting into the system. It is something similar to you put the detergent powder and stir it in the water. The exactly same thing happens in the lake. See, when the lake receives the sewage, which is not treated, then N and P get into the water body. Now, when the N is taken by the green plants in the water body, while the P, small fraction is taken by the algae, while the major fraction get trapped in the sediment. When this get trapped in the sediment, during the pre-monsoon, there is a high wind. Because of the high wind, there is a churning of the lake happens. When the churning of the lake happens, the sediment that are there in the bottom comes to the top. So when it comes to the top, naturally there will be the frothing happening in the system. That's where we witness the large-scale frothing in Bangalore lakes. Yeah. That's okay, don't worry. We'll move to the next part anyway. We'll continue with this. I think that's a name for it. Is the slides are visible, Soumya? Okay, I am just retrying this one. Okay, I am resharing. Okay. No, I think she is. Now, can you see, Soumya? Okay. Now, anyway, the second part, I almost completed the treatment aspect. I will take up the case study, which is not a link file. I think it was a link file creating the problem. I will not get into that, okay? So now, let me give the case, let me give the case study of Bangalore. And Bangalore is supposed to be the science city, knowledge city, but even in this city, we do not know how to treat the wastewater. In fact, the audience who are here, I would appreciate if you don't talk among yourselves. So the discipline is a very important thing in our day-to-day life. When we are celebrating the occasions like Science Day, I expect you to respect the science by listening to the scientific talks. Okay, I will get back to the top. You know, the Bangalore became a Bengaluru in 2006. The current area of Bangalore is about 740 square kilometers. If you look at the kind of the growth that has happened in Bangalore, way back in 1800, in this 740 square kilometer, we had the 1452 water bodies which are interconnected. You know, earlier the small rivers and streams were flowing in this topography, which were bundled. That's how we created the lakes. During the time of our earlier princely state, we had 1452 water bodies and about 82% green cover in the region. So because of that, the temperature in the region was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius, and you know, for some time in the December, the temperature was 0 degrees Celsius, where it is 14 to 16 degrees Celsius in summer, the May month. But today the same Bangalore, the temperature has gone to 37 to 40 degrees. That is mainly because we have lost greenery and also we have lost the water bodies in the system. Today, the last 3 decades, the water bodies have been used for discharge of the sewage or indiscriminate discharge of the raw sewage and industrial effluent. You know, the city, which was supposed to be a garden city, slowly became a garbage city. Today, it's almost heading towards the dead city. So, dead city, the frothing lakes with occasional fires. That's what happens in our lifetime. Some of the people, when they are about to die, you can see the froth in their mouth. After their death, we cremate the fire. The same thing happens in the lake also. So now, when you look at the topography of Bangalore, it is like a small hillock with undulating terrain. Taking advantage of the undulating terrain, our elders have created the interconnected water bodies. So that's where 1452 water bodies we had before our birth, but today we have 193 water bodies. I hope my generation will make sure at least this 193 water bodies is given to our children in a better state. Okay. Now, when we look at the kind of growth that has happened in Bangalore over a period of last 5 decades, which we analyzed using a remote sensing data, these are the pictures of the Earth taken from the satellite platform. You see that the 68% is green. Green means the vegetation, blue is the water body, yellow is the open space, and red are the building. Now, 2019 or 2020, you see that it's almost 90% is choked up with the red. So that means everywhere you see the building, only the human beings, there are no trees nor the water bodies. So now, we will see that the lakes in Bangalore, the major lake, the Bellandur and Vartur lake. This is the catchment for Bellandur and this is for the Vartur. You see the similar kind of growth what we witnessed in Bangalore has happened in this catchment also. In fact, from 1973 to 2019, you see that the way the transition of red color has happened, you see more and more area have come under the buildings. Okay. Now, when you look at the statistics, there has been an increase of 1,028% increase from 1973 to 2017. Only the buildings have come. This is not a good sign for any city. It has to ensure that every citizen has a clean air or water and the environment. That's what we are supposed to maintain so that our children and elders enjoy the environment. But what we have done is we have choked up the city. Now the latest data shows that there has been 1,055% increase in the concrete area. And if this trend continues, 2025, 98% of the Bangalore is going to be with the concrete. So that's where I started telling the system, enough is enough. Let us decongest the Bangalore. In fact, yesterday also I was in one of the government meeting. I was telling the bureaucrats that we need to change the Bangalore. We cannot go on having every building in Bangalore. But hardly few people understand these concepts. So now let's look at the number of trees in Bangalore. So, see, this is my campus. My campus is about 400 acres. You know, Sir C.V. Raman was the director of my institute. Okay, today I have an opportunity to address the youngsters here on the Science Day. So, the message what I got from my elders, I am trying to give it to the children of today. So now this campus, we do a good job. In fact, we are number one in the country. That's mainly because of the good science we do. And also we are one among the top 100 across the globe. And in this campus, we do a good job because the greenery is there. We have a favorable environment. Where there is a favorable environment, people do a good job. Where there is an unfavorable environment, you see there are conflicts, divorce, and all kinds of things happening in the system. Now, when you look at the number of trees in Bangalore, I was surprised to see when I did the quantification, I saw that the 14,78,000 trees are there in Bangalore for a population of 95 lakhs. That means for every 7 person there is one tree. You might ask how many trees I require. In fact, many Bangaloreans do not know why they require the trees. They think the trees are nuisance. You know, we all breathe. I have not come across any individual who doesn't breathe. When a person breathes, he or she takes the oxygen and gives the carbon dioxide to an extent of 540 to 980 grams per person per day. And 1 hectare of tree takes away about the 6 to 8 tons of CO2. So that are the carbon. So that means by that ratio, for every human being, there is supposed to be the 7 or 8 trees. What we have in Bangalore, this is a reverse situation, 7% 1 tree. Now you might ask, what is the implication of this? Some of my colleagues who are not staying in the campus, who are staying outside, they have to use oxygen cylinders. And I don't know how many of you are also using, and most of you who are listening to me today are all very young. There is a very youngest person also in this room, that probably he is also not dependent on the artificial oxygen. Okay, this is a summary of my first talk, 7% per the 1 tree. But what is required for every person, 78 trees. See, then I was trying to see when the erosion started happening in our system. See, when I see the degradation in the environment, I also see that degradation in the environment is happening because of the erosion in the value system in our society and also the culture. Then I started looking at the literatures, our historical, scriptures and published literatures I started looking at. When I looked at the Bible talks about the conservation, why we need to conserve, at least 320 times. And Quran also talks about imminent war if we pollute the water. Today I am talking about wastewater, which is talked in the Quran. Okay, that's where when you visit Dargah, you need to wash your feet and finger with a clean water. So what they thought is, if we practice at Dargah, then probably we'll also practice in our neighborhood or in the society. Similarly, in our system, in our literatures also, in Masya Purana it talks about the linkage between the water and children and trees so aptly. For example, if you have a well at home, you are wealthy. The 10 wells are equal to 1 lake, 10 lakes are equal to 1 sarovar, 10 sarovar is equal to 1 child and 10 children are equal to 1 tree. The benefit of nurturing 1 tree, the same benefit you can get by having 10 children. Or put it other way, the benefit what you are likely to get from 10 children, you can get by planting and nurturing a tree or a sapling. Now I'll put it other way. The people who cut the tree are the murderers of the 10 children. You see how powerful our Asian literatures are. But hardly we read this literature, and that's where we have become irresponsible. And today there are universities have come up in the system. I was told WhatsApp University. With a fake idea, fake news is this one, and 90% of the people are wasting their time on this, in this WhatsApp University or the fake university. That's where further erosion in our values are happening. So now, let us try to understand how earlier we used to make sure that waters are not contaminated. You know, when we have vegetation in the surrounding area of the water body, it used to treat the water. You know, the remediation used to happen. It is called phytoremediation. You know that when you have a diverse vegetation in the neighborhood of the water body or the buffer zone, because of the diverse vegetation, you know, they have a different capability to treat different nutrient and the other contaminant in the wastewater. That's how the wastewater, which was passing through this, the green buffer zone, you know that all those treatment would have happened. Lake never used to get, the water body never used to get contaminated. You know, that's where any river or the water body, you have something called a riparian vegetation. You go to Western Ghat, invariably you will see across the streams and rivers, on either side of that, you have the riparian vegetation. That's the job of treating. Now, let us try to understand whether we need lakes. Because in Bangalore, there is a group of people think they don't require the lake. You know, there are a group of people come and argue with me vocally that why the lakes are required in Bangalore. You know, I keep asking them, do they drink water? If they drink water, then lake has to be there. And my study shows that in the region, when lakes are there, groundwater table was 80 to 100 feet. And when people removed the groundwater, in 4 years, the groundwater table went down to 600 feet. And today, in the same region, you know, after 20 years, I see people have gone down to 1900 feet and there's no water, which establishes the link between the lake and the groundwater in the system. Okay, now let's try to understand how lakes are being polluted and abused. And of course, what we should have done is, we should have rejuvenated lake and we should have retained the rainwater and we should have treated the wastewater. The next part of my talk, for another 6 minutes, I'll talk about these concepts. Let us try to understand how we discharge the wastewater. You know, all these innovative methods, only the country, the citizens in India or in the Asian country know that. You know, we use the lake to dump the solid waste. We do not treat, but we dump the solid waste. And we all move around the city without even grumbling, without even questioning the authority who dump the solid waste. You know, when I look at the crowd, I sometimes wonder whether our society has lost the spinal cord. Because hardly few people question this kind of irresponsible action. Today I am addressing the youngsters in Mumbai. I hope I will have a next group of people, youngsters, with a spinal cord. They are going to question the system when there is an indiscriminate disposal of the waste into the system, which in turn leads to the pollutant or the contamination of the water and the land, etc. You know, then people encroach the lake bed and they build apartments. These apartments are called Lakeview apartment. And for Lakeview apartment, there are some stupid fellows, they pay more and they go and stay there. And they discharge the sewage which comes to the lake. So that's where I see that the kind of the mismanagement happening in the system. And you know, this lake, particular lake, Belandur and Vartur lake, the biggest lakes in Bangalore, about 900 to 400 the acres, receives the sewage of the city to an extent of 500 million liters. In addition to that, You know, the local people also discharge the sewage into the thing. Those who are away, they send this through the tankers. You know, invariably through the tankers, I have seen the industrial effluent getting into the water body. You know, the water body which used to be like this when I was doing the studies in 90s, today is covered with the green plants. You know, the covering of green plant doesn't mean that everything is healthy. It shows there is a lot of nutrient available. Because of that, the green plants have grown profusely. When the green plant covers the water body, it kills the water body. You know, it forms a thick layer. It does not allow the sunlight to penetrate. In absence of sunlight, you will not have algae, nor the zooplankton, nor the fish in the system. So now, let us try to understand the various, as a student, as a professional, we all measure the water quality. Let us look at the water quality when the lake at the inlet and at the outlet, when it is of this kind and when it is in this condition. See, when the lake is like this, you see that dissolved oxygen at the inlet is 0, that is because sewage is discharged there, but at the outlet it is about 12. That means by the time water moved from one point to the other, there is a treatment has happened. Okay? Then in this condition, if you see, when covered with a green plant, the dissolved oxygen has not crossed 3 or 4. That means the lake continues to be, our lake is in a polluted state. This is what we need to understand. Okay? Then let us look at the food chain. See, when the algae, you know, when the lake is covered with green plant, the sunlight penetration doesn't happen. In the absence of sunlight, the algae comes down. Because food is not there, zooplankton doesn't survive, the fish doesn't survive. That means the people don't get the fish. See, this is how it affects us. When we abuse Mother Earth, naturally Mother Earth doesn't give the food. Only the mother gives the food in spite of abusing her at home. You know, but Mother Earth refuses to give the food. So this is what we need to understand. Now let us see, if the lake is not polluted, how much goods we get in the form of fish, fodder, groundwater, etc. When the lake is not polluted, people get about 10,500 rupees per day per hectare. When we pollute the lake, the value comes down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Who are the people who dependent on the lake? Fishermen, washerwomen, then, you know, the farmers in the immediate vicinity, they were earning 10,500. And we sitting in some other place, we just send the sewage through the pipe to this lake and kill the lake. You know, that's where, when I look at the Bangalore, every Bangalorean who are in the upstream is a polluter. You think that you are paying the municipality and your job is done. But it is your job to see the water body in your locality is not contaminated because of the indiscriminate disposal of the sewage. Now, when you look at this, you see that frothing happening in the lake. For some of the people who are slaves of the mobile, you know, they go and take the photos here. Selfie is called. In fact, somebody from Delhi came to Bangalore to take selfie. When I went to the lake for collecting the water sample for the analysis, I saw the bunch of youngsters coming to the lake to take selfie, standing 45 degrees and trying to take the thing. Even they didn't know these are indicating the highest pollutant in the system. You know, this shows that there is a phosphorus pollutant in the thing, and this shows the industry, the grease, etc. has got into the system, and that's where the fire happens. You know, I have traveled many countries. No one in other countries has shown me coexistence of fire and water. It's only the Bangaloreans. So this is the situation we have reached. You know, then of course there are group of people who want to solve the problem. You know, Lokayukta, Mr. Adi talked to me, and that's where we analyzed and we gave a report. And today we are in the process of rejuvenating this lake. Okay? Now what is the solution that our decision makers do? See, when the froth was coming to the road, media started talking about the frothing. And you know, then when the media pressure is there, naturally the bureaucrats come with some kind of a solution. What is the solution? They came up with What I suggested was to treat the sewage and not allow the industrial effluent to get into the water body. Instead of doing that, they just put this kind of a barricade. They thought that the froth will not come to the road. In fact, I wrote an article in the newspaper saying that this is the ad hoc decision, this is a kind of senseless decision the government has taken of putting the barricade. At that time, people criticized me and they said they have succeeded, I am just criticizing the thing. But I said that my criticism, you will see after 4 days. As I predicted, the froth crossed over, and that is how this kind of illogical design doesn't work in our system. That is where one need to understand the causal factor. That is where the science is required. When you understand this, then you can come with the solution. The people who got Nobel Prize, if you look at, they looked at the smaller thing in a greater detail. So with that, they could understand the whole system. So now you understood why the frothing happens, and let us see what are the implications of that. I request some of the people who are sitting in the last row talking among themselves. I would like you to listen to me. Otherwise, you can go out of this room. I have no problem with that. Because I don't want to talk to a group of people who want to sit and listen like Harikatha in the thing. Okay? So I will come to you and talk to you also while you have been talking all along. I will come to you after some time. Okay? Otherwise, I will call you to come to the dais. Now, what are the implications? Let us try to understand. See, you all know that the lake gives us a fish. Okay? There are green plants in the lake which goes as a fodder to the cattle. In the process, we get a milk. And people use this water in the lake for growing the vegetable. Now you might ask, okay, we have discharged the sewage, we have discharged the industrial effluent. So what? Why are you so worried? My question to you all is, collect these samples, fish, vegetables like pudina, spinach, etc. and milk. Analyze that. When you analyze that, you will understand the implication of that. Sitting in auditorium, using mobile, talking among yourself is okay to some extent, but not okay when there is a scientific deliberation is happening. So this is what you need to understand. So now, when we analyze that, we saw the heavy metal. Heavy metal in our food chain is killing the Bangaloreans and killing the people in our country. This is what the bureaucracy has to understand. This is what the citizens have to understand in our country. Making our children vulnerable to contamination is not a good sign in the country. The number of cancers have gone up in the city, number of kidney failures have gone up in the city. Has anybody questioned in the Bangalore why the cancer is going up, why the kidney failure is happening? Have they filed the PIL? No, this has not happened. See, the kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh 10 years back, today is 1 in 5,000. More and more people are losing the kidney. Of course, they have lost the brain. Kidney is another thing. When you lose kidney, the treatment doesn't happen in your body. When I visited one of the rural schools in Vattur, LKG girl child doing LKG, her both kidneys have failed. What else I have to see in my life? And 8th standard, another girl child, one kidney has failed. Then when I talk to the children and when I talk to their parents, the parents earn only 12 to 14,000 a month, whereas the dialysis costs about 3,000 per week. So, how will they live life? Now, why they reach the situation? That is because, as an industrialist, as a citizens, we dispose our waste into the environment. In the process, the children are becoming more and more vulnerable. And also now today, large number of the seniors also have lost the kidney. So this is what Bangaloreans are going to pay the heavy price. That is where you need to wake up today. Some of you are teachers here in the audience. You are doing a noble profession. First lesson to the child you need to give is not to disrespect mother at home and not to disrespect Mother Earth during the lifetime. If you give this message, You are giving a child to the society, which is an asset to the country. That's what we should do. And that's the job of every person on the earth who are in my age group and slightly younger than me. Okay? Now you understood the situation we have reached. We do not have enough oxygen, we do not have water, and we do not have kidney. And of course, brain is also non-functional in most of the people. When I talk to the people, hardly few people think. When I ask what is 16 into 6, they can't even tell me that. They want to use a mobile to tell me about the answer. This is a postgraduate student who has done the masters in science. When he came to my lab asking for a job, this is a small question I asked. He pulls out the mobile and says that 16 into 6 is this. So I said, get out of my lab. That is what the teachers have to do. You need to be strict. If the child is not learning, you have to make the child to learn. You should not punish the child, but make sure child learn the subject with interest. That thing you have to put it in the child. Then children as they grow up, they become sensible. When they become sensible, they will be responsible. When they are responsible, we will make the country a developed country. That is what this country requires today. So, now, let me see how I can solve the water problem in the country. I said that next Nobel Prize is going to be a person who is going to solve the water problem throughout the globe. When every child on the earth gets a clean water, an adequate quantity of water, that person who solved the water problem will get the Nobel Prize. It could be one among you. So you take this subject seriously. Okay? Now, as I said earlier, let us see the scope of lakes and rainwater harvesting. Okay? When you do the rainwater harvesting, individual houses get the benefit of 3 to 4 months additional water. Now when you look at Bangalore, Bangalore receives 700 to 850 millimeter rain. If I harvest the rainwater, I have 15 TMC of water. The 15 TMC of water, the Bangalore requires 18 TMC. That means 70% of the water required for Bangalorean can be met through the rainwater harvesting. And the best way to do the rainwater harvesting is to arrest the rainwater in our lake. Second thing is wastewater treatment. If Bangaloreans are using 18 TMC of water, if we treat that wastewater, I will get 16 TMC of water. That is where I said Chakkur Lake model has to be replicated there. I will come to that, what is this Chakkur model in few minutes. But for this idea to happen, 15 TMC because of the rainwater, 16 TMC because of the wastewater treatment, Bangalore will have surplus water of 31 TMC, which can happen only with the 5R formula. First R, we need to have a responsible citizen. When people are responsible, they will never pollute the water body, they will rejuvenate the water body so that we can retain the rainwater. Then the second R is the retaining the water in these lakes. When lakes gets the water, as I said earlier, groundwater gets recharged so that children get a clean water. Then the other one is reuse and recycle of the wastewater. So that's where, as a teachers, your job is to create a responsible youth for tomorrow. That is where, when you do the teaching today, make sure your student becomes a sensible youth over a period of time. Now, let us look at the other aspect. See, these people are dependent on the lake. That's how this, green material, the green plants from the lake is taken for the fodder. See, we did the study to find out how to rejuvenate the lake. Probably in the entire country, I had the benefit of taking the army's help for my scientific studies. In fact, they came, they helped us in going to the difficult terrain, difficult region to do the measurements, to collect the water samples, etc. So these are some of the pictures of the lake where the encroachment has happened. We also looked at what is the depth of the lake. And when I say lake has to be rejuvenated, the silt that is accumulated in the lake has to be removed. How much silt has to be removed? That we quantified. These are all our sampling points. When we did that bathymetric study, we could find out how much silt is accumulated in the lake. Okay. Now this gives the profile earlier. and the silt accumulated in the system. When I look at this, about 6 million cubic meter of silt is deposited in Belandur and Vartur lake. When I said that we need to do the desilting of the lake, a bunch of jokers cropped up in Bangalore. They said, oh no, if the silt has to be transported, then traffic problem will happen. They wanted lake to die. They didn't want the children to have clean water, but they were more worried of the traffic and other things. But today, I am very happy. I am in the part of the National Green Tribunal. We are successful to some extent. Now, desilting has started. The first set of vehicles from Vartur is going out today. When Vartur silt and Belandur silt, when I analyzed, Belandur silt has some contaminant. Vartur silt doesn't have any contaminant and farmers can use it. I had a meeting with the farmers in Bangalore in that part of the thing. Now today the silt is not a problem because within a 10 kilometer of the Vartur lake, the farmers have come forward to take the silt. So that is the job of the scientists. When we interacted with the farmers understood the richness in the silt. They said they will take it to the agricultural land. Now we are also talking to the other agencies how to convert the Belandur silt into the beneficial products like brick, then sand, etc. Okay? Now the water quality of the Vartur, we analyzed. These are all the sampling points. I will not get into the detail, but I will just explain to you how we did the thing. In a boat we went to all the places in the lake. I have the distinction and my students have the distinction of covering the entire lake. In fact, two girls who are sitting here, Sinsi and Sulabha, they will spend 7 days in monitoring the lake along with the army people. In fact, army people were surprised. First they thought that looking at their physical feature, they thought that these fellows are useless. They said, sir, why you have sent this kind of youngsters who look so sick? But when they completed a task in 7 days, they said that these girls are much stronger than army girls. So, my advice to you is, give the education to your child, girl child. She will transform the country. That's what should happen in our country. That doesn't mean that we should not give education to the boys. We should give. But when you do the education to the girl child, she will run the family and she will run the country. So that should happen in our country. Okay? This gives various parameters. We analyzed all these parameters which shows that lake is in a bad state. Now coming to the kind of the organisms that are there, and I said that bioremediation, etc. These are the organisms that does the job. When algae does the treatment, we call it as phytoremediation. When plants, the terrestrial plant does it, we say that the phytoremediation. Okay? So these are some of the algae in the system. They are silently doing the job. Like mother at home. Mother never grumbles when she cooks a food for the children and husband. When a husband cooks a day, he makes a big fuss and goes around telling everybody in the vicinity that he has cooked. Probably that's the only day he would have cooked in the thing. Okay? That's how the ecosystems also work silently. Okay? And these are the plants that does the job of the taking of the nutrient. This could be Colocasia caesa. Then this is the water hyacinth, and there are some grasses that does the job. So now these are some of the sampling points for that. Now I am almost at the end of my talk. Okay, I will skip some of the slides. When I analyzed what kind of treatment should be there for the Belandur Vartur, I did the comparative assessment of the treatment plants. We looked at what are the treatment, the technology one should have. Did a comparative assessment. We saw that which one is effective. Cost effectiveness and the land optimization and all those things. That is where we looked at various technologies. Then finally we told the government what kind of technology should be there. So now I will move to that technology. I will skip some of the slides. See here if you look at the NDR could be better, but it's very expensive. But now I have a technology based on the scientific principle, how the nature functions. See, when you understand how the nature functions, you can be a good designer. You can be a good architect, and also you could be a good scientist doing this kind of design for the treatment, etc. That's what we did. So now when we look at what are the contaminants in the thing, we did the analysis and also the worth of that silt in the lake. When I did the quantification in terms of brick and the agriculture, etc., it amounts to about 15,000 crores. You all know. When the Bofors scandal happened, we said 9,000 crore. But in our lake, we have 15,000 crore we have deposited. If we take it out, convert it to value-added product, the Bangalore and Karnataka gets the benefit. Sometimes we get pessimist. We become pessimist. We think that nothing works. But I am always an optimist. I said when I wrote this article about 4 years back, I said I will take it out still and we will see the success model to the entire country. And today, we have reached that situation, our state. Okay? So now, this is the kind of the treatment what we did. That is what we are going to do in Belandur and Vattur also. This is one of the success model which we implemented at a place called Jakkur. What I did is I just integrated constructed wetland and algae pond. We had a secondary treatment plant which removed the chemical ion, whereas the algae pond and the constructed wetland removes the nutrient. That means it does the treatment to the tertiary level. This lake way back in 2005 was polluted. Surrounding this lake, the borewells had nitrate. As I said earlier, nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. Now today, surrounding this lake, there are 300 wells. None of the wells have nitrate. That means I have the satisfaction of giving this at least 300 well users a clean water. And for the last 10 years, we have monitored this lake. This is the report that is available online. You can download and read this. So that means with a simple technology, you can treat. Okay? So that's what it says. This is the amount of the contaminant that is removed. And these are the plants that does the job. Okay? Now, how to bring awareness among the citizens in Bangalore? I said cash them in. That's where, for the last 2.5 decades, I am interacting with the school kids. Invariably I get a lot of invitation from the schools, especially on a science day. In fact, I keep telling the schools, don't celebrate science day. Celebrate science day every day. So that you will have many C.V. Ramans and C.N.R. Rao in the system. That's what the country requires. So that is where when we do that, the child understands the importance of learning. When the child understands the importance of learning, that child become she or he will learn and become a very successful citizen in the system. Now, how do we do that? We organize a symposium, popularly known as Lake Symposium. It's an international symposium. But one day, in that 4-day event, is for the school children. That means when the school child takes part in our event, in fact, Rishikesh attended the thing. He knows how we deliberate, and some of you also were online through YouTube and all. You are also listening to our presentation, etc. So that's where capacity building happens. When Rishikesh gave a presentation to the audience, August audience, people were surprised how this boy was trained to do this kind of a study. The child of 8th or 9th standard giving such a talk to the gathering where international delegates are there, national delegates, experts are there, without fear he spoke. That's what teacher has to do. To some extent, BDS was successful because there are people like Rajeshri and Nair in the system. That is where we should increase this breed of teachers in the system. I don't want teachers who think that teaching job is between 9 and 5. Teacher job is 24/7. Student job is also 24/7. You should not think that, oh, holiday has come, let me close my books and run away. When you are playing also you can learn. Okay? Then create the new lake. These are the other things. Now you might ask, what did you do? I have created a lake in the campus which stores 10 lakh liters of water. My family uses 500 liters a day. That means 1.5 lakhs or 1.6 lakhs a liter I require for my family. I am storing 10 times the water. This is what every Indian has to do. What you consume, 10 times give it back to the system. If you have made your parent to spend 10 rupees, it is your responsibility to give 100 rupees to them, not to put them in Vruddhashram. Today I am so pained to see there are a bunch of jokers in Bangalore have put the elders in Vruddhashram, which again shows the erosion in our value system. We do not even know the importance of the elders. How important these elders to our children, they do not understand. They are so selfish. They want convenience and comfort. That's where in the process they put them in the jailed Vruddashrams. When I meet some of them, really it brings tears in anybody's eyes. So that is the kind of situation we are doing. I hope after listening to me, you will not be the one who will put your parent in the Vruddashram. In case your parents are in Vruddashram, please bring them home. Take care of them. They require your affection. Okay? Now, when you create this kind of water body, it has become a recreation spot for our students. And also lab for my students, like Sinsi, Sulabha, to do the biofuel investigation, etc. Not only students are happy, I have the organism like this. At one end I said Bangalore is dying. Other end I am showing a green Bangalore where I have otter. This is what you can do. Now when you have the otter, you all know that otter require a lot of fish. I don't go and give the fish every day. What nature has done is, it has created a system and it provides enough food to the otter. We did the quantification of that. So that's what, when we did that biodiversity of the lake, we saw the algae, zooplankton and the otter in the system. There's enough fish in the system. See, that's how the nature gives the food to everybody who are dependent on the nature. Then, the small treatment technology where I introduce the fish into the water, which eats the organic material, the treatment happened. If you go to Gokarna, the lake was like this. Today, lake looks like this. You all do Shivratri, Ganesha, all those, celebrate those days without knowing the essence of the day. Lord Shiva got the water to the land, but that poor Shiva was taking the bath of Abhishek of this contaminated water for 10 years. Till he met me. When he met me, I realized this Lord Shiva is taking a contaminated water because people are disposing the puja material, ritual, the rituals are performed there, 12th day and the anniversary, and all those rice balls and the other the puja material is disposed in the water, which has increased the organic content in the water body. Naturally, the organic content decay and there is a smell. And what I did is, I found out, okay, let us make this a profitable business. I had a discussion with the priest. I told the priest, let us make sure you will make the devotees to discharge or do the Visarjana of the rice balls at a particular location. And they pay 20 rupees or 25 rupees per family. In the process, we have 20,000 revenue, which is given to the NGO. The NGO in turn has hired 3 youth. Their job is to do the DVD and excess rice ball from here, they take it out and give it to Goshala. At the same time, we introduce the fish which eats the rice which is left in the system. That is the ecological engineering. Now the lake for the last 3 years, it looks like this. Now Lord Shiva is also must be happy because he is getting the abhishek of a clean water. This is what will happen. The scientists, when they work, we give the water even to the God. Not only to the humans, even to the God. Okay? So now, I have come to this institution. Known for the culture, known for the saints who have done a wonderful job. When I met this saint, he is a Jain Swamiji of Moodbidre. He knew the implication of not having the water because the Moodbidre had faced the water crisis during 2014 and 15. 2016, he came to know that I am traveling in Mangalore and that region because the media carried the report of my travel. Then he fixed an appointment with me. Then we met in the late evening. And then he said, I have 12 acres of land. I told my students who were there with me, Vinay and Bharat, I said, let us take the opportunity. We went next day with the Swamiji. We did the survey of the thing because always we carry the tools required for the survey, like altimeter, etc., and also our brain. Because hardly people carry their brain when they go out, okay, in Bangalore. So then we did the measurement, we found out what is the water yield, where is the lowest point. We gave the proposal to the Swamiji on the May 2016. I told Swamiji that June 5th is going to rain. If you do the water body, this year you will not face the water body, water crisis in the region. And also I made sure when Swamiji takes up this work, he also does the desilting in the locality. So I told Swamiji, if you can do 1 or 2 lake desilting, then as a cascading effect, other the people also will start doing the thing. You know, in the process, 32 lakes in Mudbidre were desilted by the people in a year. And this year there was a water scarcity, but not in Mudbidre. Okay? And then, and some of you have come to Mudbidre, you have seen this thing. Some of the children also came for the last symposium. And now when I see the success, Swamiji is young, where youth is there, they will be, if they are sensible, they do a wonderful job. And I see the success is because of the children from Alvas College and also CEO of Alvas. You know, that is where I saw the success there. Then after seeing the success, then I thought this young man has a lot of resources. I should take advantage of that. So what I did is, next year, in his campus, another water body which stores 25 lakh liters of water was created. And again the greening of the catchment was done. So now you see that how green it is. Next year when I visited, 2018, when we were organizing the symposium, we can see the greenery, and of course you see the smile on all the youngsters who are there with me. So we gave the water to the system. Okay? Then come to my campus. You get a glimpse of the campus like this, green campus. We are also wonderful people. Why we are wonderful? Because we are in the vicinity of greenery, in the midst of greenery. That is what is the thing. When you are in the midst of green and blue, you feel very comfortable and feel very healthy. Today morning when I saw the young beautiful teachers, when they were lining up here in a blue saree, I felt that I am moving in the water. You know, that is the feeling I got. So, as I moved, they were also clapping. I felt there is a rippling effect also in the water. You know, that's wonderful thing. That's how my day has started today on the Science Day. I will never forget this occasion in my life. Okay. So now, when you come to my campus, you see a forest and also you will see this plant which has, when you look at that plant, you see that it has the architecture. You can also copy that and implement in your thing. I was fascinated by that architecture. I said I should have it in my campus in Bangalore. I brought that seed to the Bangalore. Out of 14 seeds, I planted 7 in 7 locations. In 7 locations, out of 7 locations, in only 1 location it has survived. It is planted by me. The same hand, same kind of soil throughout the campus. But in only one place it has survived, that is next to this building where I have been working for the last 2 decades. Which means even the plants know who will take care. The humans don't know. Parents don't know whether their children will take care. Parents are taken care only if their money is there in the bank account. The day money is seized, then they are thrown out of the home. So this is the situation. Now in front of my building, you know, I created a mini forest. You know, this is the model for the entire country. 49 species, native species in a 2 hectares area, 500 saplings were planted. Way back in 90s when I was a student. You might ask, so what? Everyone does the gleaning. What is this greatness of this? For them, you know, groundwater table, when the region was infested with Parthenium and weeds, the groundwater was 150 feet. Today, when the region is covered with the native species forest, groundwater table is 10 feet. So that is not a good sign. So this is what, you know, the linkage between the vegetation and the water comes. Wherever greenery is there, there is surplus water. Wherever people have degraded the landscape, there is no water in the system. That's why people struggle. So now that's where we have the interaction with the school children who go around, who do the experiments, and they come to a lake symposium. And these are the kinds of experiments they do. There is a carbon sequestration or the catchment mapping, water quality assessment. You know, they have been trained by my students. They collect the sample, they come to the lab, and then they do the sketches. This is the work we have done. You know, 2009, I gave the solar potential of the country. Today, country has a solar program based on this work. What the work we gave in 2009 and 10, my students of that day, today they have become a stalwarts in solar sector. And today, country also has a solar energy alliance, and there's a large-scale solar technology being deployed in the country, including the Karnataka has a distinction of having a largest solar plant, 2000 megawatt at Pavagada. Okay, and today my youngsters are working on biofuel. You know, you can have one side you have electricity, other side we are trying to have the oil for run your vehicle. So when I look at the country, 65% are youth. If I harvest the youth energy along with the solar and biofuel, I will make my country the proud country and a developed country. That is the vision I have. And that is what we are looking for. That is what I have been doing when I go and interact with the schools and colleges. In fact, if you look at my profile, the last 2-3 weeks, I have been giving lectures to the many people. My audience ranges from 60 to 1,000. You know, the other day when I went to Gulbarga, there were about 2,000 people were there. I asked them, like I asked Mr. Dr. Nayak today morning, has Corona affected? He said, the children have thrown the Corona out of the campus. We don't have the fear. As long as you don't have fear, you can do a wonderful job. That's what we should do. And if you want to write to me, this is my email. You can reach me only by email. I do not use the stupid instrument called mobile. My friends sitting in the last row were wasting their time using mobile. Probably the fellow has sent some joke. They were sharing that, sitting in a classroom. Okay? Then this is my web page which gives the detail. You can access my web page here. Okay? It looks like this. You can see there is a research paper section. All details are there, including Lake Symposium. And when you access research paper, you get all our publications. PDF is available for you to download and read, not certainly copy-paste. If the child does a copy-paste, that child will never shine in his or her career. As a mother, as a teacher, we should make sure our children don't use the copy-paste culture. Okay? Now, you see this, okay? A glimpse of my team with the society and the army. We did the science. And if you have done a good job, it's because of the youngsters doing the wonderful job. Some of them are with me here today. When they do that good job, you know, they make everyone happy, and that's what we require. So let us equip the child of today with the knowledge. That child will keep us happy. You know, let me conclude my talk. I am a firm believer that science, society, culture and spirituality has to go hand in hand if you want to see the sustainability in the system. If you want to see your child to be sensible and responsible, we need to make sure all these go hand in hand. So I wish you all the success. Thank you very much for listening to me, and thanks to the youngsters who are listening to me from remotely at Mumbai. So Soumya, I have ended my talk. Thank you very much. Okay.
That we all are motivated for conservation of water bodies in general environment conservation. Receiving so many positive and motivational comments in YouTube Live also, and I would like to read one or two for you. The participants are students, faculty members, industry professionals, and
there is a break in your
they
voice.
are posting on social resilience and environmental. Let us take an oath. We will take care of Mother Earth with social responsibility and environmental protection. And this is our contribution to letter vision. Sir, thank you so much for such an informative session. And there are some questions also in the comment box. One or two I would like to address them. Please, I request you to address them.
Sure.
So they have some questions like how GIS or remote sensing, it plays a key role in monitoring of water bodies.
See, one is remote sensing data. This is a picture of the Earth. We get it from 1970 onwards. As you know, the satellites are launched way back in 70s. the 7 days or 21 days we get this photograph of the earth. As you know, when you have the photograph of a particular region or yourself, you can monitor the changes. That means the remotely sensed photographs or the data helps in mapping, inventory and monitoring of the earth resources. That's why how it helps. And GIS, to analyze this remote sense data, you need to, if you know the programming, you can write the code and do it. Most of the people these days, because they have become masters of mobile, they have forgotten the coding. So for that people, I think GIS softwares are available. They will be able to analyze that. In fact, many the states today are heading towards the digital university. In fact, yesterday I was in the government of Karnataka, one of the geospatial technology discussion, wherein I mooted the idea that we need to have a geospatial based digital university, because all our decisions have the location, whether it is your property or whether it is your the ration card, all have the location, or your PAN or Aadhaar have the location. Let us take advantage of geospatial technology and make the system more meaningful. What I mean by meaningful is when you have the data available, you can do the planning. When you have the planning, then you will have a good governance. That means the GIS and the regularly available remote sensing data helps in the planning, which is what is required for good governance. In fact, my vision is to have the GIS knowledge at the school level. In fact, wherever I visit, I give the orientation program. The school children learn within a week. When I go to the college, I may have to take the same session for 2 weeks. School children learn in a week's time, where the college students require 2 weeks. Whereas if I go to the still people in the age group of 30 to 40, probably I may have to give the session for a month. So that's where give this knowledge when the children are in the school. So they will learn that tomorrow everything will be the spatial. That today when you want to go out, you hire a vehicle, which is again driven by GIS. That's how the geospatial technology helps. So that's how it has been helping in the natural resource management. And today now with the digital India, we are moving in that direction. Probably in another 2 or 3 years, I would see that the whole system is digitized and we'll have our properties and all the details available online for taking appropriate decisions. Okay? Yes, Soumya.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for clearing that out. Thank you so much.
Okay, your next question.
So then there are some questions on what are the job prospects in this particular field?
Oh, well, I always tell my student, don't worry about the job. Job will come to you. It is something like, when I was young, parents used to say you learn typing so that if you don't get a job elsewhere, you can set up a shop and you can run the show. The similar thing happens with GIS. You can have your own consultant firm. You can hire 30 to 40 people. You can do a wonderful job. So these are all the tools and technique. When you equip the child of that knowledge, that child is empowered to take up any kind of responsibility. That's what we have to give to the child. Not tell the child to go to the government office for a job as a slave. Have his or her own setup and give a job to the many more. When they give job to the others, when others are there with them, they can lead a very happy life. Symbiotic relationship always helps in our system. That is what the youngsters, talented youngsters of today have to do that. I know that I am addressing a group of youngsters in Mumbai. If all of them take up this profession, if each one of them have an industry of 40 to 400, I think I have solved India's the unemployment problem to some extent. And this is the only sector which can get into any level from village to the city level, so that job can be there at the village as well as at the city level. Okay? Soumya?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an informative session. And I'm also thankful that I, a busy schedule today, you took time for this webinar. I'm thankful to you, sir.
No, I didn't take the time. I just, moving around, I just talk to you people while moving around. I have come to a school here. When I am addressing the school children and also the young teachers, I am also talking to you. Parallelly, I have done both the job. So in the afternoon, I have another session in the late evening. Probably I don't know how many more will listen to me in the evening. Thank you for that. Okay, thank you for giving an opportunity to address to your students. I hope the Mumbai youngsters get a benefit. They will have a sustainable solution to the flooding which happens. Only when flooding happens, Mumbaikars worry about the floods. After that, they sleep. So if they think about floods today, probably the next flood they can address it so that they will have a sustainable solution for tomorrow. Okay?
Yes, sir. Right.
Sure. Okay, thank you so much. So thank you for this.
So much for coming.
Yeah, I'll take off from you now and tell your youngsters the success, okay, in their career. And best wishes to you also.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, already a very youngest person is standing. I will listen to him. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jaydeep. Two of my kids, my daughter and son, study here. First, I would like to thank Dr. Naya and management of BGS for giving us an opportunity to hear you. Otherwise, I think it was not easy. And it was a wonderful talk. I attended many sessions, I think various sessions. One of the best talks I have heard recently. My question to you is, you have shown us like how this water management can be done, the solution related thing. We know the status here in the city and also in the country. Since you have information around the globe, I would like to know any country which has progressed well in addressing the solution that you are mentioning and how they have done this. One part. The second part of the question is, you also touched the solar energy at the end of your talk. Now, a lot of the fad about solar management has already picked up. The corporate has come in, government is also, the government of Karnataka has set up a big solar industry. Like that, when you foresee that fad picking up in this, like corporates and government, especially corporates taking interest in the water? That is the big question. Thank you.
You know, the corporates, yeah, please. I will answer your second question first. When these children who are in the audience today, when they become entrepreneurs, I am sure they will do it. Okay, I am not sure about the today's corporates, because when I go to some of the places, I see the glass facade building. I asked, why in country like India, that to the climate of Bangalore, which is a tropical climate, why we should go for the building with glass facade? Oh, they said, no, it looks beautiful. I said, beauty and comfort don't get along. These are opposite words. You know, they were not convinced. Then we did a study to find out what is the electricity requirement for people who are in normal building versus the people in the glass facade building. In the normal building, the electricity requirement for a person per year is 750 to 1500 units. In the glass facade building, 14,000 to 17,000 units per person per year. Now that means 10 times higher electricity consumption, means 10 times higher carbon emission. That means we are contributing to the warming of the earth at least 10 times higher. Now why this has happened? This is because of copy-paste culture. You know, the Bill Gates brought that products, you know, all those MS Word and all. One of the greatest features is copy-paste. And all these youngsters who are masters of Bill Gates products of MS Word, etc., not Linux or Unix, they have a tendency to copy-paste. Today's architects, today's civil engineers, when they go abroad, they do not even think which country they are in. The temperate climate, cold climate, where you have to conserve heat, the glass facade building is required, so that you have the thermal comfort required for you to lead a life in a cold environment. These stupid fellows will copy that architecture and they paste it in Bangalore environment, Hyderabad or Mumbai, this one. In the process, they have increased the electricity consumption. So this is what the industries have to understand. Where are the enterprising industries? They know how to count notes, but they do not know how to give the comfort to the people. So that is the first part. Second part is the first question you asked is which are the countries? You know, way back in 90s, the frothing happened in the water bodies in Canada and European countries. They realized that frothing is because of the phosphate in the detergent. They brought a restriction on phosphate content in detergent. That's how they address the problem. That today Europe is a good example, European countries, some of the countries in Europe, very good water quality. Even if a small fraction of E. coli in the thing, they become so restless. In our country, E. coli is everywhere. Still none of us are worried about the thing. You know, that is where we need to make everyone understand the principles of nature and environment. You know, environment education has to be at all levels. See, when I look at the environmental literacy in Bangalore, general literacy is very high. Everyone can read and write. Youngster can sit in the auditorium in the classroom and use a mobile and then send the chat messages like some of the youngsters were doing here. But when you look at the environmental literacy, it's very poor. The general literacy is next to Mumbai. Mumbai has 87% general literacy, while the Bangalore is 85.7. But when I look at environmental literacy, it is only 3.5% of Bangaloreans are environmentally literate. That 96% of Bangaloreans are environmentally illiterate or Shatamurkas. Because of that we have the problem. If you have to mold them, let us take the children and make them learn this concept. That's where these young teachers have the role to play. And people like me have the role to play. Let us sensitize and make the child more responsible so that tomorrow may be better than today. Okay. Yes. Yeah, you also asked. Okay. Whoever gets the mic first will ask the question.
So hello sir, my name is Prajwal Anhet, and first of all I would like to say that your talk was very interesting and it was mainly very motivating to all of the youngsters present here. And well, my question is mainly during this pandemic we have learned one thing, that prevention is definitely much better than cure. So why isn't the same ideology implemented in waste management sectors? Because what currently, as we have seen, even in our textbooks, online, if you're reading blogs, then everybody is talking only about cleaning the water. But why aren't we actually focusing on not getting the water dirty in the first place? So if industries are like, there are effluents coming from the industries into the water bodies, and then why is there a case that people are not worried about treating that directly, rather than after the lake is dirty, people are concentrating on cleaning it, and so why is that so, sir?
Okay, you said prevention is better than this. Very good. I'll ask a simple question because I need data to speak. You know, as a scientist, I need data. Do you eat pizza?
Yes,
Honest
sir.
answer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Not during this pandemic.
Fine. Do you use bottled water?
No, sir. We don't usually use it, but only by traveling. So bottle in a sense, plastic bottles or
Plastic, Bisleri and such thing comes in the market, no?
no, sir. We only use it while traveling.
While traveling.
Traveling. Yes.
See, today I traveled to this place. Look at my bag. I have a water container. If you can replicate that model, you have reduced that much waste getting into the system. Okay? Second thing is, if you stop eating pizza every alternate week, then probably you will reduce your waste further. See, the reducing at source. See, your grandmother was a good example. She never threw the waste out. Whereas your parents now will send the polythene back to the next compound. Okay? So that shows the erosion in our system. What you should do is, you should replicate your grandmother's or great-grandmother's thing. I'm not talking about grandfather, I'm telling you grandmother. Because I know for sure, all grandmothers, the way of life. Because when I go to villages, I spend a couple of days in some homes. Even today I see them, they are uneducated. Some of them have not gone to the school. But they are million times better than the youngsters in the city who are unable to manage their children. You know, to manage the children, they give the mobile to the children. In the process, they are increasing the e-waste. Whereas grandmothers knew how to keep the children engaged. Okay, that is what I would say. If you get a time, spend at least 1 month with your grandmother. Okay, or if not at your home, anybody's home, grandmother, you will learn what is required for your life. Okay,
Yes, sir.
if you do that, then one quote you said, prevention is better. Then handling pollution at source also you will learn. So you will never forget.
Yes,
If
sir.
I am successful today, because I was brought up in Western Ghats and I had the advantage of spending time with the grandparents. So that's where I could talk to you comfortably. If I were brought up in city, probably I would have been one like other city idiots. Okay? Sure. Let me listen to this guy now.
Yes, thank
You
you
are
so much.
convinced?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's not necessarily one side.
Make it
Teachers
last.
also can ask questions.
We'll make it last question, sir.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Good morning, sir. I just have a small clarification to make. You said in that model you showed the plants that help in the tertiary treatment, no? I just wanted to know whether the plants also get damaged or do they also because of the wastes, do the plants get damaged, and if they get damaged, do you regularly change them or something?
Okay. I'll put it on the lighter side, okay? Suppose if your grandmother gives you badam milk, is it bad for you or good for you?
It's good.
It's good, no? Similarly, if plants get the sewage which is discharged from you, which had N and P, plants require N and P. So that way your sewage never contaminates the system. Rather, plants grow better. But what you have to make sure is your dad's industry doesn't discharge the heavy metal into the water. If that discharge happens, that heavy metal will come to you, which is not good. So, as he rightly said, no, Prajwal, the handling pollution at source is the best way. That means before it goes out of your home, no. If you have grown plant, that is one way of doing it. That is what rural India does. If you go to village, you will see the bathroom people are taking bath. Water coming out is, in the Kerala you would have seen, coconut and all plantations are there. And well is here. By the time water comes to the well now, well water doesn't get contaminated because this plant should have taken the thing. This is called phytoremediation. If somebody is taking a bath of silver water,
What is in the water?
silver in the water, okay, let us say, then your well will have the problem, okay, then your banana also will have the problem. So that's what we have to make sure, okay. I gave an example of silver, but it could be iron also, it could be chromium also. So, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
So one more, that boy is, one second. Madam.
Sir, I just wanted to ask you, I am Lakshmi Anithakrishnan, I teach social science actually. So you were talking about the mini forest. And I have heard also somewhere in Manyata Tech Park they have been creating some 7,000 some mini forests. Now in India if you go to see, because population is so high density and everything else, and if you see land is limited, how do you, what is your suggestion for creating this mini forest? That's what I was very impressed when I saw that.
Yeah. In fact, I am the believer, nothing is scarce. I have enough land, I can do wonderful things as long as humans cooperate with me. If humans ask me a question, let's say, land is a constraint and all, then I can't educate them. Now coming to this one, I have mapped the land resources in the country. Do you know that Karnataka is heading towards Rajasthan in desertification because of mismanaging the land? Then 45% of land in Kolar, Tumkur are barren. Don't you see there is a land available? What I said is, in every village, if there is a 2 hectare or 3 hectares of mini forest, that village will have water. If every ward in Bangalore has the mini forest, then that will have water, groundwater recharge happen. If you have only concrete building, then naturally you will not have water in the well. That is what is happening in Bangalore. So when we plan a city, as per the norm, town planning norm, 15% has to be open space. That open space should not be the property of the minister, like earlier energy minister was there. Wherever land is there, he want to be there. So let us have the plants there. Instead of having him with a glass facade building, let us have the thing. So if there is a will, there is a way. If you don't have will, people say there is no land, there are no youngsters to do the job, the country doesn't have the thing. If there is a will, you will see that everything happening without any problem. Sure. Just before sir gets up, you ask the question.
Good morning, sir. I was very...
Good afternoon now.
Oh yeah, it's good afternoon, yeah.
Okay, good morning only, okay.
I was really captivated by your presentation and, I really liked it. It inspired me. But my question is, it's related to Maham's question also. You see, like in previous days, the area covered by the lakes was very large. But nowadays, as you've shown, the area covered by the lakes has been decreasing. And, because of it, the barren land has been created around it, and because of it, apartments have begun to come up in those barren land. It's called as encroachment, right? So is there some way to prevent it? And furthermore, is there a way to take back that land which the apartments are taken? And there's another thing actually. In many areas like where I live, which is Akshay Nagar, almost all the houses have begun to use groundwater resources. And especially the apartments, which of course have very high water demands. Is there some way to mitigate it?
See, you asked the first question. First question, if you say, this lake is mine, no one will encroach. That sense of belonging has to come. If it comes in school children and college students, no one will have a courage to do anything. For example, when Balandur Lake and Vartur Lake, how much land was encroached? We were successful in evicting them, which has happened because we did the analysis. We showed how much data, how much land is encroached, by whom. Even the Supreme Court said, evict them. And those fellows are packed off from the thing. That is where data is a good weapon. As a student of science, you should respect data. When you respect mother at home, it's the same way you respect data while learning. Then you have the weapon with you, no one can do any illegal thing. See, that's where, whichever lake, when I give the report, the government also take it seriously. That is because of the data I put in the way. So that's what should happen. Okay? Now your second question is?
There's a great amount of people using groundwater, right?
See, that is where I said, my generation, that means your parents, are irresponsible generation. Go and tell them. Don't hesitate. We didn't allow the recharging of groundwater. We made everything concrete. To park our vehicle, we cut the tree. After parking the vehicle, we say, no, the bird dropping falls, so I have to clean the car. So I don't want this stupid tree to be there.
Yeah.
That means they are irresponsible. So first remove this irresponsibility from them. Then you will have enough water. Like I showed lakes. If all lakes are rejuvenated in Bangalore, even today, 193 lakes in 198 wards, that means one lake in each ward. If I rejuvenate those lakes, no child will have the scarcity of water. That's my vision. If you join this, you will make that to happen. That's where youngsters have to do it. Take a pledge today. See that it happens.
Yes, yeah.
You accept. Just don't give a flowery words to me today saying, sir, I will do it. I want you to do. After 10 years when I meet, I'll come and say that yes, you have done it. I don't believe in nice words like wonderful, good, etc. I believe in action. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the forum is to sir. I have given to him.
Thank you, sir.